could know all of the words and still not be able to translate the sentence. Why does that happen? It's not because of a lack of vocabulary, it's because of a lack of grammar. So the problem is diagnosed, and then what happens is quickly it's changed into another problem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah here. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in a famous hadith, أُعْتِيتُ جَوَامِعَ الْكَلِمِ, I was given words of great comprehensive meaning. وَاخْتُصِرَ لِيَ الْكَلَامُ اخْتِصَارًا, and speech was made concise for me. So he's talking about his own God-given aptitude and his talent and his eloquence, because he was more eloquent than everyone. But he's also talking about the language, because the language has certain elements built into it that make it unique and make it superior. And when you learn those things first, then this is what accelerates progress. And this is what allows you to master the language. And this is what removes all overwhelm. And if you were to sum that up in a single word, that word would be comprehensiveness. What in other languages requires separate words to communicate, Arabic does it through vowels and patterns and grammatical structures. So in this video, inshallah, I'm going to give you an example of what looks like a single word that's actually communicating 7 meanings. And this is mind-blowing. On the screen, you'll see a word. It's a full sentence, actually. It's read, istansaru. It translates to, they, group of males, sought help. So how many meanings do we have there? It looks like there's 3. There's they, there's the sought, and there's help. But the total number of meanings in the structure are actually 7. So let's unpack this. Let's walk you through it. So the first meaning that's there in the structure, istansaru, is the helping. And where did that come from? That came from the particularness of the 3 consonants that's in the middle of the verb. The noon, the sad, and the ra. And the proof is that if I were to switch those 3 letters and substitute it for the food letters, ta, ayn, and mim, and instead of saying istansaru, I say istat'amu, the meaning changes. And instead of they sought help, it becomes they sought food. So where is the help coming from? Clearly, it's coming from the 3 consonants in the middle. Okay, what's the second meaning? The second meaning is the notion of seeking. Because the translation is they sought help, and it could have been they helped. So where's that coming from? That's coming from the 2 letters at the front. They're giving us the notion of seeking. Right? And then there's a hamza at the very front, is. Is that contributing? Is that adding to the meaning? Pause the video, think about that, post in the comments, let me know what you think. Is that hamza at the front, is it contributing to the meaning, or is it there for some other purpose? Okay, moving on. The third meaning there is the past tense, because the translation is they, group of males, sought help in the past, and it could have been they are seeking help, it could have been they will seek help, but it's none of those. It's particularly they sought help. So where do we get that from? Where do we get the past tense from? We got that from knowing the present future verb, because the present future verb would need to have a particular letter at the front in order to indicate the present. Yastan, tastan, astan, or nastan. So yastan, so the yata, that letter would have needed to be there at the front in order for the verb to be the present future verb. In the absence of that, and also the sad has a fatha, istansaru, and if that vowel was istansiru, it would be different. So it's by knowing the other 2 verbs, because the total number of verbs in the Arabic language are just 3. There's the past one, which is this one, and there's 2 others. So it's done by ruling out the 2 other verbs. So it's by the absence of the letter that needed to be there in order to indicate present future, combined with the fatah on the sad. Both of those gave us the past tense. The fourth meaning would be the active voice, because the translation is they sought help, and it could have been help was sought from them. So where is that coming from? That's coming from pure vowels, because 3 of those vowels, the is, the tan, it would have needed to be ustun, siru, and then that would be the other one. But the point here is not to teach the topic. The point here is to highlight the comprehensiveness. Okay, now with 4 meanings out of the way, the final meanings are to do with the wow, which is a pronoun, and it means they, but it doesn't just mean any they. It means particularly they group of males. So we're talking about a group of males. So when you talk about the subject, that's called third person. And then it's a group, so that's the plurality. And then it's men in particular, because if it was women, I would have done it differently. So this is mind-blowing, because what we have here is what looks like a single word, and it's communicating 7 meanings. And this is true at the word level, which is what I just demonstrated for you there. And it's also true at the sentence level. So when you take words and combine them together, you always get more than what you started off with. So there's meanings that come from the words, and we call that vocabulary, mufradat. And then there's meanings that come from the structure and from the patterns. So every good thing you've ever heard about learning the Arabic language, how it enhances brain function and it creates neurological pathways within the brain, and literally it makes you smarter. all of those good things that you've ever heard is tied to this structure. Because when you read the books, the unvoweled books, then you have to infer the vowels. So you look at the possibilities and you're reading, and while you're reading, you're able to quickly infer the vowels and read correctly, and not only understand what the author's saying, but also the objective of the author. So this is what it's all about. So we have some people, they demonize grammar, and they talk about the Medina books, and they talk about the Bayna Yadayk books, and they say that you've probably gone through the Medina books and you still can't read. And so the problem is highlighted. But then quickly what happens is it's turned into another problem. Because in order to solve the inability to decipher scholarly text, there's a solution. And the solution is what I'm talking about right now. In other words, learn the structure. Learn the most broadly applicable aspects of the language and see how the roles of the nouns are distinguished and differentiated. Because you can know all of the words and still not be able to translate the sentence. Why does that happen? It's not because of a lack of vocabulary, it's because of a lack of grammar. So the problem is diagnosed, and then what happens is quickly it's changed into another problem. So in other words, the viewer is convinced that their problem is not the inability to read the scholarly text, but it's the inability to recall words on demand. So you have a word that you know, and it's part of your vocabulary, you've seen it a million times, but when you're trying to speak and you're formulating a complex sentence, then that word, you can't recall it. So the inability to recall words spontaneously is now the new problem. And the solution is to practice speaking and just do drills, and conversational fluency becomes the goal. And that was never the goal, because when most people say I want to learn Arabic, they don't mean that I want to become conversationally fluent with a native Arab. They're talking about understanding the Quran, and they're talking about being able to read and decipher the books of the scholars on their own and become independent. So they diagnose and they identify the trouble, which then creates trust, but then immediately they'll borrow from SLA, second language acquisition, and they'll talk about in second language acquisition, they teach you that you need this and you need this, and they'll talk about how languages are learned, completely ignoring what makes Arabic unique and what makes Arabic superior. Why would you leverage second language acquisition theory in order to convince people of how to learn Arabic? Because you're not able to unpack the structure that's built into the language. So on this channel, that's all I've been doing. Okay, and I've been doing this for well over 20 years. That from all of grammar and from all of sarf, morphology, what we do is we extract a core that could be studied and mastered and grasped in an incredibly short period of time. All you need is about 3 hours, which you could spread over a number of days. So we've seen, based on testing, that this normally takes about 3 weeks. So by the third week of class, we're able to begin a book like this, the Stories of the Prophets book. So there's no delayed payoff here, and there's no overwhelm, and there's actually zero memorization. So what's demonized is the worst possible grammar imaginable, like memorizing lists, low impact, low yield, taking all of these terminologies and sitting and memorizing them without purpose, without relative importance, without knowing what's more important, what's less important. So this is bad grammar. Bad grammar is demonized, and it's wrong. And that's not what I'm advocating, and it's not what I've ever advocated. For 20 years, I've never said study grammar and teach grammar and don't do anything unless you've mastered all of grammar first. That would be ridiculous. So what they're doing is they're taking the worst possible caricature of grammar and pretending as if that's what everyone else is doing, so that they could dismiss it, and in the process, they're poisoning grammar itself in the mind of the student, that your problem has been you've been studying grammar and you shouldn't study grammar, which is completely wrong, because from all of the sciences associated to the Arabic language, the most important is grammar, because grammar is what makes Arabic understandable. So what they are talking about is low yield, low impact, largely irrelevant rules that could be and should be taught much later, like i'rab indicators. The student doesn't need to be taught that now. Like, it could be taught later, once you see it happening here in the book a couple of times, and then the student naturally becomes curious, like, what's going on here? I was told dhamma fatakasa, I'm not seeing a dhamma here. Clearly, this word is a subject, but there's no dhamma, so how do you explain that? So what this does is it guarantees that the student is only studying the most important thing at any given moment. So again, there's no memorization. Rules never need to be memorized, and then vocabulary acquisition becomes a breeze. The point here is that, sure, we need words, and there's no reason on earth to assume that the student will not be given the meanings of the words. That's a given. That goes without saying. That students will be given the meanings of the word. But vocabulary is the least important part of the language. Can you not see that? Vocabulary is the least important part of the language, and you don't need a proprietary system in order to memorize words. all of the tools that are needed in order to gain vocabulary are freely available. And especially in the age of AI, it's like incredibly easy. You don't have to sign up for a premium program and spend $3,000 in order to memorize words. What you need is you need insight, and you need to learn how the language works. So this is why that sister from Harvard, the one that drove 22 hours from Mississippi to do my premium program many years ago, back in the 2000s. I think it was in 2004. Before I formalized any of this, I was teaching like this naturally. So this is naturally how you teach Arabic to a Western audience, and not in ancient Arabia, because in ancient Arabia there were no grammar books, obviously, because they were living the grammar and they were immersed in an environment where all they did is they spoke uncorrupted Arabic. And if a child is hearing that, and so, of course, the grammar will become second nature. But we don't have that luxury because we live in Western societies. We speak English as our first language. So all of this SLA, second language acquisition theory, there's some benefit to it and some of it applies, but we apply it naturally anyways. Like, I mean, you don't build a system on things that are obvious, right? If that makes sense. So if I've convinced you in this video about how the Arabic language needs to be approached, then you can begin with this video here and you can start watching the 3-hour workshop and gain this core of how the language works and do that first. And with that said, I look forward to speaking with you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.